seek to explore this avenue for the future. Instead of putting out entire swathes of brand new content, go back to what they already have and modify it in some way to keep the experience fresh instead. May not particularly like it, but it appears to be a format that has proven to work across the genre as a whole when it's been employed. As simply put, fresh starts are fun, a new economy, players everywhere, almost too many in my current experience of trying to level. Dungeons are popular, it's just a good time to pick up and play the game, and encapsulates what the MMORPG is all about. And you know what, with World of Warcraft, I don't care that it's a 17-year-old game I'm having fun on. I think it's that many years now. I wouldn't care if it were 20 years old or 30. You know what, the next time I hear somebody listening to the Beatles, I'm going to go up to them and say, imagining they're listening to a 70-year-old band, as if the enjoyment had some kind of time cap on it. Anyways, the point is, seasonal gives you a backdrop of the game you remember, with hopefully enough of a twist to make it interesting and engaging. Now, when it comes to World of Warcraft, I feel like this is something that has to be said, unfortunately, is you often find people online who are extremely jaded with the franchise, who have been on private servers for literal years and have cleared the content from Fresh in Elwyn Forest to the end of Nax beating KT 5 times over. I'd be more surprised if you were not burnt out beyond all belief on the game by this point. So whenever you're thinking about playing it, it is seasonal. The season will come and it will go, and if you don't like it, don't play it. Myself, I've never been invested in private server scenes for WoW or any other game for that matter, so Season of Mastery following the launch of Classic is technically my first go at a Fresh, and even for a Fresh it has been comparatively extremely casual. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a new server release in an MMO with a more casual reception than this. On November 28th, a Chinese guild landed the first clear on Onyxia, and Ragnaros is yet to fall as of doing this video. I bet that will be soon to change though. It's not entirely down to the difficulty though, right? This isn't some mythic level insanity you see in the world first race for retail. It's just, well, this is the third time Ragnaros has been a world first target, officially in Blizzard's eyes that is, and a lot of the mega hardcore guilds on Classic had already played through the content cycle several times over, and it's just being unwilling to go that hard on it again and just aren't playing, or, you know, being casual like a lot of the player base is. I think now we've taken on the fully seasonal route, this is kind of the final nail in the coffin for any possibility of a fully fledged Classic Plus, that being taking World of Warcraft going forwards in a horizontal progression path and not a vertical one, as in instead of us laying an expansion on top of the game every 2 years, instead we just keep going to the side and adding new patches, maybe new abilities to the classes, new dungeons, new raids, new zones to fill out the ones that were eventually used in Cataclysm, as being Twilight Highlands and Uldum, and so on and so forth. Because unlike seasonals, those would take a lot more time to develop, whereas with the season, there are a bunch of changes made at the start and then it's kind of off we go. At best, each season would be a bit of a different variation on something that maybe could have made its way into Classic Plus one way or another. So even though it's early on into Season of Mastery and Classic being seasonal, what makes me so confident this is only the start? Well, this is why. I've mentioned it a number of times before on the channel, but it just really matters for the video here. Blizzard last year picked up Holly Longdale from EverQuest, where she had been for over a decade, and that game had moved towards TLP or time lock progression servers and had steadily been releasing them year after year. I'm expecting many of the lessons that have been learned there to be taken into Classic moving forwards, as there is somebody at the helm who's been doing this for a very long time. So I thought it might be interesting to take a look at some of the ways which EverQuest and other games have integrated new servers and seasonal modes as time has gone on. What kind of mechanics have they done? How could that be associated with World of Warcraft seasons in the future? Let's look at a few implementations from EverQuest. They have what is a randomized loot progression server. It's a server where loot has been randomized, surprise, across rares and raids. Rares are also more likely to spawn. Rares in Classic are not too exciting, to be honest. Majority of the time I find they drop a green that rolls poor stats, but at least it is something guaranteed, though I will say that rares are certainly rare. Imagine loot randomized in raids across the same tier, however, and this could make getting things you want super frustrating. Then again, you could do a molten core and get 3 onslaught girdles, 2 mage blades, and hey, even maybe a few heads of Onyxia. Why not? It's all gear from the same tier, right? Then again, you could get more than 1 vendor strike per raid. Next up, they have what is a true box progression progression server. This is a server where each player will only be able to play one EverQuest account from their computer at a time. We want to encourage players to play with friends on this server, not just form a group with their alts. So, important distinction here, EverQuest is free to play, World of Warcraft is not. On private servers for WoW, multi-boxing is very frequently disallowed and a bannable offense, even to the point where if you can be proven to have a second account at all, you could be banned, with some servers allowing you to have a second account for banking, buying, just sitting on the auction house basically. And this was the case long before Blizzard took action to make use of software or hardware solutions bannable as well, simply because private servers are free. EverQuest is free, meaning one guy could totally run people off the server, lock down farming spots, and there's not much you can do about it as a singular player. I imagine EverQuest ran into similar problems. The subscription fee on WoW does somewhat of an incentive for this not to happen, and there are rules against multi-boxing now, so this doesn't seem like a step which would do anything significant for WoW. Next up, what is a voting time lock progression server? This is a server where players vote on whether or not to open the next expansion. If the vote passes, the expansion unlocks. If the vote fails, it'll be held again at a later time. So in EverQuest there are around 25 expansions, I think. They did a lot of them, and many of their expansions, when compared to what we call an expansion in World of Warcraft, are a lot smaller. In WoW I think expansion, level cap raised, entire new continent, new classes, new races, new dungeons, new raids, new PvP, new battlegrounds, new pretty much everything that was in the old one, but with a different lick of paint on it. This doesn't seem like something that could be overly exciting for World of Warcraft, and I feel as though things would be voted no upon again and again, and any semblance of a more hardcore crowd would just disappear over time. What's the difference between a progression server and a classic server? By most descriptions, a classic server is an attempt to recreate EverQuest exactly as it was at launch by only using assets and content that was available at launch. A progression server is another EverQuest server, contains many changes such as blah 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 EverQuest things to make it a bit different. So interesting, they have done a proper fresh before with, I guess, what we would call no changes and the lot on EverQuest. I didn't expect that, to be honest. It might give you some hope if you're a fan of world buffs, as well as the longer leveling cycle and just, well, the server existing for more than 12 months, exactly as it was back in Classic in 2019. So those are some of the changes they made, but you know what else they did in the time lock progression servers in EverQuest? An in-game shop. Yep. So Classic is already sub-based, but seeing how Blizzard were willing to throw boosts and mounts in for the launch of TBC, I'd imagine it will go this way eventually, seemingly not this season though, but wait for the season where there isn't a baseline XP buff and see if we have the XP potions rolling in the cash shop. Now, not everything here was usable on the seasonal EverQuest servers, however things such as the XP boosting potions and bags to greatly expend your inventory space early were. Again, it is a free-to-play game though, so a shop is kind of always going to happen, but the impact it should have on the game doesn't always have to be so game-breaking. Moving on, let's check out a different game a little bit. Another example of how seasons have been done differently is in old school RuneScape. They have leagues which are much shorter and only a couple of times per year, usually lasting around 2-month duration, where players are given a special number of worlds, which is what they call servers over there, where they have a goal or objective to take part in. A key feature of leagues is they are locked to certain portions of the game world, meaning the meta as for best training, skilling methods, gearing options become wildly different than they would be with full access to the entire map. It's like a reset button on the known meta and shakes things up for a period of time until more unlocks, which is usually indicated by player progression. As you leveled up, you could choose to unlock new areas or special bonuses to improve your performance in the areas of content you want to engage with. Leagues also had large XP increases and some restrictions on trading in certain cases. And I've heard something somewhat like this discussed for World of Warcraft. Imagine a season where the endgame was not raiding, but players were capped at certain levels, or maybe even some zones or dungeons were not available on launch. So instead of the Zerg to endgame gearing and most of the stuff in the middle and early of the game being kind of irrelevant, there could be different stages where your base is from dungeons or obscure quests instead. This would also fit in with a slower leveling pace as well, in my opinion. Or maybe this kind of idea doesn't fit too well with Classic's raiding progression format, because if we did this, imagine 6 months down the line, we finally open the endgame dungeons like Scholarmance and Strat and all those, and then we also have all of the raid tiers to go through as well. It might be a bit of at odds with each other, unless they just make there be a lot more loot drop from the raids and try to speed up that progression instead. Either way, with the changes so far, I'd say Seasonal Mastery has a decent amount different, and whether you're here for the pre or post level 60 content, it seems like a pretty good go at a seasonal server for Classic. And what we usually see with seasonal servers is things keep getting more and more out there creatively the longer that they go on. So who knows what kind of stuff Blizzard will come up with for the future. Maybe they'll send out some more of those.
Oh my gosh. I was like casually going to hit my potion and I got crit and I almost died.
I can't drink anymore yet.
One ogre, two brutes. That's our guy. That's our guy right there. Ready? I don't need help. I don't need help. Wait, what? Wait, how is he? Wait, why is he chasing me? I didn't even aggro him. Stop. I don't need help. It's super annoying because it makes things less fun.
I can't cast that yet. That spell isn't ready.
Okay. What's your closest death experience so far? It actually just happened, didn't it? Actually, no. It was probably the dragon. Drive by.
That spell. That's still recharging. That's still recharging. That spell isn't ready.
Come on. Go away!
I can't cast it.
Did he just heal him?
That spell isn't ready. That's still recharging. I need more mana. I can't cast that yet. Not enough.
No! No! This is how it ends! No! 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 I didn't see the Dark Iron! No! No! Oh! This is how it ends! Why was the other one coming for so long? No! There's so many of them! Guys, we had a good run. Look, I said this is what I wanted to do.
Good day to you.
I said this is what I wanted to do. One more run. I would play until either I die or I hit level 60 and then try and do MC. And it was a great, amazing run. Yeah, I really don't plan on playing vanilla anymore unless they make like some crazy changes. Even if I'm not really actively playing vanilla and streaming vanilla anymore, it is always going to be something that's like very special to me. It's going to be very special to me. It's going to be something that's it's just been very, very important to me. Yeah, the ranking streams, AQ stuff, getting ready for Scarab Lord, all that, right? Like I've done everything that I could possibly want to do in this game. I kind of just wanted to do one last run. If we die, we die. We kind of go back, or not go back, go out with a bang. I'm always going to be really involved in wanting Classic WoW, Vanilla WoW, Burning Crusade, and eventually Wrath to be as good as it can possibly be. I care a lot about like Season of Mastery being good. I'm very, very opinionated about it. If you guys watch my streams, you guys know that. So, I'm still gonna be pretty involved. Like maybe, like, you know, doing behind the scenes stuff and doing all that. But no, I'm not really gonna be playing vanilla anymore. I think there's a lot to be said. I think there's a lot left to be done in terms of getting like the proper vanilla experience and things being done right. I think that Season of Mastery is I think of new fresh is always going to be fun. The excitement of seeing all these people come around and how just how lively the server is and how exciting it is for people to play together and have fun. But the reality of it is, I don't think that Season of Mastery is going to be particularly fun for very long because of a lot of the decisions that they've made. And I think that there's a lot of things that they could do to make the game even better and do it proper. A lot like what they did back on private servers. For now, it's over. And it's just all Burning Crusade and probably Wrath now for me.
Is it time for Final Fantasy XIV now?
Good evening, I'm Adrian Arsenault.
And I'm Andrew Chang. Tonight, the rush to respond as more Canadian cases of Omicron are caught.
Everything is so uncertain. I will be more cautious just until we find out a little more about the variant.
What it means for you, from booster shots to airport testing and travel bans.
We're just hoping to get home for sure before Christmas.
Also tonight, BC's relentless rain packs another punch.
This flood has kept me up at night. We know we have another couple tough days ahead of us.
Nervously watching the rivers as the last big storm starts tonight.
Leaving the Queen behind.
The inevitable is happening. The British monarchy has fallen like a leaf in autumn.
It's a party in Barbados tonight as it becomes the world's newest republic.
And why you shouldn't wait if you're looking for a real treat. This is The National. Yet again, the pandemic has put science on the clock, a high-pressure race to pin down the Omicron variant. How transmissible is it? How virulent? How easily does it evade immunity?
The problem is those answers could take weeks, and Omicron is already here. Yesterday, Canada had 2 confirmed cases. Now there are 5.
So that's 4 cases in Ontario, 1 case in Quebec, and more potential cases under investigation. When Alpha and then Delta came here, days and weeks mattered when it came to the response.
But it's not at all yet clear if Omicron is as dangerous. And as Rafi Boudjikanian explains, the response now seems to be focused on fighting the variant by finding it first.
The first 2 confirmed cases of Omicron, travelers returning to Ottawa, were found by chance.
We were fortunate to pick up these 2 cases from Nigeria, given that it was part of a random testing strategy.
And officials soon found more.
We are now aware of 2 other returned travelers who have tested positive for the Omicron variant.
A first case of the new variant has been confirmed in Quebec.
Now provinces are asking the federal government to expand testing to match a rapidly spreading variant.
Test people coming into the country regardless of where they've come from, because we're seeing that the Omicron variant is in several countries right now.
We will continue to follow the best available advice from our public health care experts. We will always reassess what is appropriate at the border.
Quebec has 115 travelers self-isolating while they wait for tests due to recent trips to one of the southern African countries on the no-travel list. Ontario Public Health is reaching out to 375 travelers. In Alberta, that number is 156, and in BC, 204.
This will go very, very fast, and therefore we need to take it very seriously.
Whether Omicron makes people sicker than previous variants is still an open question. Some epidemiologists worry it is spreading faster. The message to Canadians: use the pandemic tools available.
It's good masks, well fitted. It's good ventilation, and it's getting vaccinated, 2 doses if it's recent, and if you can get a 3rd dose already, get the 3rd dose. It has never been more important.
Health Minister Jean-Yves Duclos met with G7 counterparts on the Omicron response, the new variant now detected on multiple continents. But since the travel ban targeting some African countries on Friday, Canada's announced no new measures. Rafi Bujikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
The unknown dangers of the Omicron variant have become suddenly urgent, just as some countries with high vaccination rates were planning how to roll out booster shots. Tashana Reid shows us how this new concern is changing those plans.
Carol Wortman was relieved to get her booster shot today.
I thought, I want to be on top of this.
But now a new worry, the Omicron variant.
Everything is so uncertain, and in my head, I will be more cautious around people or whatever, just until we find out a little more about the variant.
There are still many unknowns, including the effectiveness of our current vaccines against it.
The virus may look a certain way, but how it behaves in a human population, especially with vaccines already out there, is the big gap in our knowledge.
In response to the new variant, the UK expanded its booster eligibility to anyone over the age of 18, and the US president urged everyone to get a booster.
If you're 18 years or over and got fully vaccinated before June the 1st, go get the booster shot today.
Here in Canada, provinces and territories have varying guidelines for who can get a booster shot, mostly elderly people or those at risk. Ontario health officials said they were already planning to expand eligibility. While boosters are effective against Delta, they can't be the only defensive measure against the new variant, says this virologist.
We're going to need other public health measures to contain this, especially now that we know that there are cases that have made their way into Canada.
Vaccine makers are already busy working on this new challenge.
We will build one at risk right now for Omicron that will be used only in case we need it, if we see that the current one doesn't work.
Pfizer previously developed shots for the Beta and Delta variants, but didn't manufacture them because its current vaccine was already highly effective. Until we know more, health officials say the best options to keep Canadians safe are existing vaccines, masking, and following public health measures. Tashana Reid, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, in response to Omicron, Japan announced some of the broadest travel restrictions in the world. Unlike Canada or the US's ban targeting select countries in Africa, all foreign visitors are being banned from entering Japan, and returning Japanese nationals will have to go into quarantine facilities. So far, Japan has 0 confirmed cases of Omicron. Israel and Morocco have also temporarily closed their borders to foreign travelers. Now, some young Canadian athletes are among those caught in travel ban limbo. About 20 of them on the junior national women's field hockey team were set to compete in the biggest tournament of their lives until Omicron canceled it and stranded them in South Africa.
It was a bit crazy because Thursday morning we woke up and our family members had texted us like, hey, look at this new story. There's been a new variant of COVID discovered. And then literally 12 hours later, tournament was canceled. We had to find a way to get home. So I think it all came as quite a big surprise.
And later in the program, we will show you how they're coping as we take a deeper dive into the impact of Omicron and the wisdom of travel bans.
Right now, there is another exhausting waiting game underway in rain-soaked BC. Today was the lull, a short one, before a third back-to-back storm strikes. It will dump more rain on that already saturated ground and send more water into already swollen rivers. Today, the province announced gas rationing will continue for another 2 weeks, and it extended the state of emergency. As Susanna Da Silva shows us, people are really tired as they wait to see what comes next.
It's time to move out as the water moves in again.
I'm watching a slow motion train wreck. I mean, it's just, you know, it's coming, but there's nothing you can do. You just sit here and watch, you know. It's frustrating. It's hard.
This is what his recycling business looked like in the morning. 2 hours later, this boat was almost ready to float off as floodwaters rolled over the U.S. border.
You can see the high water mark from the last event. It went up about 3 feet. You know, our lunchroom and everything is still all torn apart.
This water is still the result of this weekend storm, and while today at least provided a reprieve from the rain and perhaps a hopeful sign, the break is a brief one. The next storm is on deck.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm actually speechless.
This farmer already didn't know if he could save his field, submerged first in catastrophic floods 2 weeks ago and again now.
First time it was shocking, but now we're more prepared.
It's a feeling echoed by the mayor of Abbotsford.
And I feel much better today than I did yesterday at this point. Unless we get a 200 millimeter dump Tuesday and Wednesday, that's a whole different ballgame then.
Crews worked into the night to set up a dam to protect Highway 1 and are feeling confident about the dikes that have been repaired and reinforced. In hope, the weekend storm washed away some houses. It's not clear how many, but it has everyone worried about what comes next.
They're a little bit anxious. They're concerned this next wave is going to cause some more flooding.
So while everyone watches the skies, sandbags keep going down to try and protect as much as possible.
So we really appreciate the military coming in and helping us.
So, Susie, just listening to this, clearly this is a lull between the storms, but I guess that does not mean the threat is paused in any way.
No, and if you look behind me, and perhaps you can even hear right now, the water continues to flow across this road from the U.S. into the farms over here. I just spoke to someone who's been driving around dropping off sandbags at nearby farms, and he says this water is making its way to farms further into Sumas Prairie. Now, earlier today, the province was able to reopen some of the highways that they had closed preemptively before this past weekend storm. They are already warning that they could need to close them again quickly. Adrian?
Again. All right, Susie, thanks very much.
Okay, Dan Burrett in Vancouver is also tracking developments on this story tonight. Dan.
Andrew, the weather has remained relatively stable so far tonight, but as Susanna mentioned, the main concern right now is those floodwaters crossing the American border into Abbotsford. Sandbagging efforts continued in the city late into the night, massive piles like this being made available to anybody who wants them. Highway 1 between Abbotsford and Chilliwack is closed due to flooding, and other major roads could be shut down if need be. Avalanche Canada says dangers have risen in the mountains across the south coast and in the Sea to Sky region. Back in Abbotsford, some 90 homes are under an evacuation order tonight, but some homeowners have decided to stay behind. They say they're not complacent, though.
This time around, we're just staying and watching, and we have our guidelines. We're 3 minutes from high ground. We're packed, ready to go. So, and it's not like a tsunami coming in. It's a flood. It's going to come in. It's going to give us all I need is 10 minutes and I'm out of here.
The gas rationing has also been extended, meaning South Coast drivers are being asked to limit themselves to 30 litres per fill-up to ensure essential vehicles have enough fuel. And Canada Post is warning of mail and parcel delivery delays because of closed roads. Andrew.
Okay, so all eyes are now on that approaching storm. Senior meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff here with those details. So, Joe, how much rain are we looking at here?
Andrew, we're finally starting to hone in on those rainfall totals for the South Coast. Very similar amounts to the storm we just saw. Let me show you the forecast rainfall that's actually hitting central and northern BC as we speak, along with heavy snow and strong winds. That will slide down to the South Coast for pre-dawn hours, early Tuesday morning. And you can see the gray and white bullseyes. That's the 100 plus millimeter mark. So for places like Abbotsford, Chilliwack, even out towards Merritt, looking to see double what we've just got through. On top of that, this is our warmest event yet, Andrew. So the tops of our local mountains will be adding to that runoff. Andrew, it's been 24 hours only since each successive storm. Not enough time for waterways to return to normal.
Yeah, and when we talk about that, water from the rivers themselves, that's the other big issue here, right?
Absolutely. So the peak that we just saw from the weekend event, the highest that those rivers have crested, only just starting to come down. All waterways will be running fast and furious over the weekend. But take a look at a couple of points that I'm watching. First of all, the Nooksack River south of the border that floods northward. The forecast is for that to peak on Wednesday, slightly below what we saw on the weekend, but river channels have changed. Also, the Coldwater River near Merritt expected to peak on Thursday, Andrew. That may peak at similar levels to what we saw this weekend. It's just relentless. We do finally get a break after this for more than 24 hours this time.
Okay, thanks very much, Joe.
You're welcome.
More water is also on the way for the already hard-hit southwest coast of Newfoundland. Repair work continued today on several washed-out sections of the Trans-Canada Highway following last week's record rainfall. Environment Canada says the region could see another 60 to 80 millimeters of rain fall overnight and then into tomorrow, along with wind gusts of up to 130 kilometers an hour.
Well, one of the people violently arrested by Quebec City police over the weekend is considering legal action. Today, his lawyer told Radio-Canada that his client is shaken by the encounter and calls it an example of racial profiling.
He doesn't understand why he's been treated that way by the police officer that arrested him that night, especially from the fact that he has nothing to reproach from himself or from something that he's done.
It started Saturday evening when police were called to a bar. They started arresting people as they came out. Cell phone video shows a police officer dragging a young black woman through the snow by her hair. It also shows a young man pinned to the ground and being punched in the face several times. No charges have been laid. Quebec City police say they have launched an internal investigation.
A multi-million-dollar lawsuit alleges the Calgary Board of Education did not do enough to help hundreds of students who say they were sexually abused by a teacher for decades. Today, some of those students, who are now women, went public. Aaron Collins has the story, and we should say some of the details are upsetting.
The accusations difficult to hear, harder to comprehend.
My very first sexual experience was with my teacher at his house when I was 15.
The pain from that assault nearly 20 years ago still raw today.
I'm 34 now, and it has affected every single relationship I've ever had in my life.
This man, Michael Gregory, is the alleged abuser. The former junior high teacher charged with 17 counts of sexual assault earlier this year. He killed himself just days later. Police say there were at least 16 victims, all students at this school where Gregory taught for 20 years. These women say they were among them and that other teachers and administrators knew, but any complaints about Gregory were ignored.
Didn't go anywhere, and because it didn't go anywhere in 1989, it set the tone and the stage for how he could get away with it up until 2006.
Now they've launched a class action suit seeking $40 million from Gregory's estate and the school board. This victim's advocate says the women's stories are all too common, even today.
We need to be prepared as a society to start dealing with this ugly reality and making sure that when people come forward, they get the support they deserve.
Those behind this lawsuit hope they can help change that.
I'm at the age where my friends have kids, and I want to be having children, and I don't want this to happen to anybody else. Ever again.
This class action suit has yet to be certified. And for its part, the Calgary Board of Education says it hasn't been formally served and will respond through